Hello, everybody. How is it going today? I hope it is going very swell for you on this Monday afternoon. Welcome to the Ben Burnside podcast. Back at you from Fresno, California, in my home, I guess. Well, it is, but glad to have you here. Uh, this is the show where, indeed, I talk about whatever I want. But today, since I especially like to talk about MMA for the most part, this video is going to be about MMA today. And mainly this show is going to be about the fight card for UFC on Wednesday. Like I said from the review show from UFC 251, which was which I still need to upload, but from 251, I planned on doing this show right after because the card is literally in less than 48 hours, to my understanding. So, and it's taking place on Fight Island, which is, as I explained in the last show as well, it's um, it's basically uh, it's basically um, a secluded area in the country of the United Emirates where is it a country? It doesn't even feel like a country. It's so tiny. I looked at it on the map, and it's literally by the ocean. But I it's a card that's taking place in international waters, so the international fighters can specifically fight during the pandemic. Um, in that area, the people of Abu Dhabi um, were able to give some hospitality to UFC President Dana White and his staff, so they can make a new show, or they could make some fighting shows happen during the pandemic. Particularly, they'll make those shows for their international fighters because the international fighters in the UFC they can't they cannot fight. They cannot come to America to fight, obviously because of all the travel bans due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the UFC, though, amazingly, they have found a way to work around that. And I got to give the UFC, as I said before, a lot of credit for that, along with just the overall credit um, in handling this COVID-19 situation. I mean, um, from beginning to end, they really have seemed to handle it well. And I was first vehemently against them for making shows, but they had so many tests and they've had so many quarantines of all the people involved in the show, including not just the fighters, but the president, Dana White, all the staff members involved in working in the show and production and in judging and the referee, the announcers. Everyone was quarantined and tested before the show, in some cases multiple times before it happened. And they all did that. And then finally, when everybody was clear, then the show happened. And the UFC has done this on multiple shows to where I got more and more impressed to the point where I got so impressed that I bought the UFC 251 show that took place 2 days ago. So, well done, Dana White and the UFC. They have been super aggressive about this, and this is what happens, man. When you do the right thing and you do the work, uh, you could turn a super huge critic like me, who was trashing them uh, whenever I saw them on social media at one point due to the pandemic, to where they won me over so hard that I bought a pay-per-view that was worth $70 or even more than that. So good job, Dana. That was impressive, very impressive, and I give them all the credit in the world. That was pretty cool. You know, I'm gonna do it differently today. I am going to start the card from the very top of the card to the very bottom of the card. And I'm doing that just to see where my energy level's at, quite frankly, to be honest. I kind of didn't want to say that, but what I didn't need to say it, but there you go. Let's see here, though. Let's see if this works better. So this is UFC Fight Night 172. Kattar versus Ige for the main event, and it will be taking place on ESPN. That's another cool thing by the UFC. They have been doing all of these shows during the pandemic, not on ESPN Plus, where you have to buy a membership and, for a month, which isn't bad, but you still got to cough up more money to get it. They haven't been doing it on there. They've been putting all the cable TV shows from the pandemic on ESPN. And also, I should include the lower card portions of the pay-per-view shows have also been on ESPN. So the UFC, they didn't have to do that. They're being awfully generous, and I'm very thankful for that, because normally they don't do that, and they're aware of how many people are in unemployment in terms of all the customers, and we're taking a look-see and to see what happens. So let's take a look here. We'll start with the main card. In the main event, no title fights on this show, but the main event could include it includes two fighters that could very well be where one could very well be a number one contender if he wins this fight, or he could fight for the number one contendership shot. Big difference there, but it will be Calvin Kattar taking on Dan Ige. I don't know where they're ranked. I know Calvin Kattar is ranked up there, maybe like 6 or 7, or maybe even higher. Dan Ige, he should be right around the top 10, I should say. And this is for the men's featherweight division, so 145 pounds, respectively. Calvin Kattar and Dan Ige just got done with fights of their own in the first week of the pandemic taking place. Calvin Kattar, he knocked out Jeremy Stevens, who's a well-known, respected veteran, and he defeated him pretty easy. Well, not easy, but he caught him, and it was an impressive win. Dan Ige, on the other hand, a lot of people think he lost his decision win against, I believe it was Edson Barboza. Let's take a look. Dan Ige. Yeah, he beat Edson, but a lot of people think Edson Barboza, who's a really good fighter, they think he beat him, but the judges who judged that fight got it wrong. I think it's interesting. It's very interesting that the UFC is putting Kattar in the spot where, if I was Calvin Kattar, I would be kind of complaining about having this fight, and rightfully so, because Kattar was above Ige, and both of them won their last fight, so it should go kind of like this. They should both go up to the next level, meaning that Ige shouldn't fight Kattar, because Kattar's a little bit higher up in the food chain in terms of the rankings, but so Kattar should be fighting a very high-ranked guy at this point, definitely a top 5 dude for his next fight, and I guess he's doing the UFC a favor by being in the main event. Kattar's already been in a main event. He fought Zabit Magomed Sharipov, who I think should fight for the title now. He fought him in his home country of Russia, and this will be Kattar's second main event. So he definitely is experienced there. It's going to be interesting to see how this fight goes. Personally, I'm going to take Kattar. I think Kattar's a little bit too skilled. I honestly don't know much about either fighter in terms of their fighting skills. The only thing I know is that Calvin Kattar is a hell of a good boxer, but that's pretty much it. Dan Ige is not bad on the ground, but I don't know what kind of level he's at in the ground, really. So I think Kattar's going to win. I think it's just more of his time, and because of that, I think if he wins this fight, the next fight he has could very well be for the number one contenders fight. So the next fight for him, if he wins, could be for the number one contender. Dan Ige, not so much. He's, like I said, he's lower in the rankings, but he could fight a very high-ranked opponent, obviously, by winning. It's a smart move too by the UFC because they're giving these two rather unknown guys in the featherweight division not a lot of name stock in them really. They're going to give them more time to shine with this, so it's a smart move by them to put them in the main event. Co-main event will be a flyweight fight in the men's division. Flyweight is 125 pounds. The fight includes Tim Elliott versus Ryan Benoit. No relation to Chris Benoit, fortunately for him, I guess. Yeah, big Chris Benoit fan, but you know, and look it up. But Tim Elliott used to fight for the UFC, or he did fight for the UFC flyweight title one time. He earned a shot by winning the Ultimate Fighter, the toughest tournament in all of sports. He did it by winning that, and then he fought arguably the greatest MMA fighter of all time in Demetrius Johnson, probably the most skilled. And, Tim Elliott put up a good fight. I think Demetrius said he got injured in that fight, but he controlled him, but Demetrius looked like he was in trouble a couple times in that fight. So Tim Elliott was a tough go, but he didn't end up winning the title. But he definitely is a guy to worry about. Since then, Tim has fought. Let's see, when did he fight Demetrius? Had to be a while ago. Let's see, since he fought Demetrius, he had 2 wins and 1 loss. In 2017, he beat Luis Smolka, lost to Ben Nguyen, but then beat Mark De La Rosa by submission. 2018, he didn't fight at all. In 2019, he fought a guy who's fighting for the flyweight championship on Saturday, I believe, and that's Davison. I don't know how to say his name. I'll have to figure it out. Davison Figueiredo, he's a Brazilian, and he beat Tim by submission. Wow, that's impressive. Since then, Tim has had 2 fights, though. He lost to Askarov, who's undefeated, by decision. But then he beat Brendan Royval, which apparently was an awesome fight. No, he lost to Brendan, too. Damn. He's lost 2 in a row. Shit. Well, then, I don't know. It's a weird main event. Or co-main event, I should say. But he'll be in the co-main event either way. Benoit, though, he's had a more quiet run from that time. Just to give him a rundown, he made his debut. He's been with the company for 7 years. And God, has he even had 7 fights? I mean, barely had. He's averaged to have 1 fight a year since he's been around, which is no bueno to me. Lost in his debut. Didn't fight in 2014. Fought in 2015, where he beat Sergio Pettis, brother of former UFC champion Anthony Pettis, and he lost to Ben Nguyen as well. Then he beat Freddie Serrano, lost to Brendan Moreno, who's a hot prospect, nothing to be ashamed of. Beat Ashton Mokhtarian, 2017. Then lost to Hailey Alatang. But then he didn't. I guess he didn't fight in 2018 before that. So interesting co-main event here. I'm going to pick Elliott. I think he's just been a little more active, and he's too dynamic. He's too unpredictable. So I'm still impressed with Elliott. I don't know how old he is though. How old is that guy? Alexa, how old is Tim Elliott?
Tim Elliott is 33 years old. He was born on December 24th, 1986.
Okay, Tim Elliott is 33, and Ryan Benoit is right in his prime at 30. So, interesting fight. I still am going to take Tim Elliott, though. Tim Elliott is just too crafty of a fighter. So that's my pick. Next up, we are going to get, as I go back here, also on the card, I should say, and we're still on the main card. We got 3 more fights for this card. It's a featherweight matchup, and these 2 featherweights have been bantamweights their entire career. So it's guys at 135 going up against guys at 145. We have Jimmy Rivera, who is a very high-ranking prospect at 135, was in the top 5 at one point. He will fight Cody Stamann, who made his debut at 145 only a couple months ago. The first thing, I think, in this pandemic, or no, maybe even a month ago. And he had a 3-round fight, so ultra impressive that he's already back. Especially since in that last card, his brother died only a couple days earlier. So this is superhuman, what he's doing. But just going in and for another fight after he just got through a fight. That's like Donald Cerrone stuff, going back that quickly. I think I'm going to take Jimmy Rivera, maybe just based off experience, but I don't see this being stopped at all. I see this going to a decision. But I see this being an awesome fight between 2 high-level wrestler guys. And I just think Jimmy's a little more experienced. So just based off that, I'll go with Jimmy. But Cody looked good in this new weight. He didn't have to cut as much weight. So I think this will be very interesting going into it. Women's flyweight fight. So 125-pound girls now. We got Molly McCann from the UK. She is taking on 15-1 Taylor Santos. I think that's how you say it. You got Molly McCann's a tough girl. She's in her prime at 30. She's been in a number of fights, and she only debuted in early 2019, so she hasn't been around that long. She debuted in the UK, won her debut by decision. Then she beat Ariane Lipski by decision as well. And she's also beaten Diana Belbita by decision, so she's a winner, that's for sure. She's impressive girl. Has been doing nothing but winning since getting here. But Taylor seems to be the same way. So the winner of this fight will probably be a high-ranking opponent. Taylor's only had 1 fight, though, in the UFC, and she beat Mara Romero Barella by decision last February. So February of 2019. I'm going to pick Molly. I think she's just a little bit more experienced in the octagon, and I think she'll edge out yet another decision, continue going up in the rankings. She's a character, too. She's an interesting character when you kind of see what she's all about. Let's see here. Next fight will be Next fight down on the card, it's the opening fight into the main card of the show. You got Abdul Razak Al Hassan versus, I guess, the guy making his debut, Munir Lazez, spelled Mounir, then Lazez, Lazzez. So, yeah, it's could be an interesting fight. Just based off the debut thing alone, I'm going to take Abdul, but that's a big risk by me. I really don't know. This guy making his debut could be a multiple-time world champion somewhere else, so I really know nothing about him. Abdul, though, I know a little bit about him, and he is very impressive. He beat. He's only had 2 fights in the UFC, but he's knocked out the first guy in his debut, Sabah Hamazi. He knocked out, but then he defeated a really good guy in the welterweight division, Nico Price. He knocked him out in the first round. So this guy's the real deal. He's obviously got some power. I'll pick Abdul. I'll pick Abdul. I think he's 34, so his time is now. It doesn't matter when you have power. It doesn't matter as much, I don't think, with what your age is. Speed, it might make a difference. So we'll see how he is in this fight. 34, he's still relatively in good shape with age for another year or so. So he should be okay. I think he'll win this fight. Preliminary card. You got the opening preliminary fight, or no, not the opening, the main event for the preliminary portion of the card, which has like 7 fights in this card. First fight will be John Phillips taking on a guy that I'm assuming is making his debut in Khamzat Chimaev. I don't know if I got that right. Some of these names are pretty goddamn hard, especially when the Russian fighters make their debuts. But this is going to be interesting. John Phillips is 35. Khamzat is only 26. This will be in the middleweight division at 185 pounds. I don't know anything about either of these fighters, so let's see how he's been. John Phillips, he's beaten Jack Marshman by decision in 2019. Then he beat Alan Amedovski by first round KO in only 17 seconds. And John is a Welsh fighter. I don't know. I don't remember. It's in the United Kingdom, or that's where he's from. So yeah. And one of his nicknames is the White Mike Tyson, and also the Welsh Wrecking Machine. Those are some pretty dope nicknames, Mr. Phillips. Just off experience alone, John Phillips has had 2 more fights in the UFC, and he's had 24 more fights overall in MMA than Khamzat Chimaev, who's only had 6 fights. But he's been undefeated. I'm still going to take John Phillips. I just think the experience thing will edge out and he'll win. But it looks like this could be a slugfest, and it will probably stop early. So just off my luck, I'm going to take him, or my guess. Next fight under will be a featherweight fight. It will be Ricardo Ramos, who I've heard of before, will take on Lerone Murphy. I have not heard of him. Ricardo's still only 24 years old. That's pretty crazy. He's been around for a few years now. Ricardo started off his career when he was only 21 in the UFC. Defeated Michinori Tanaka by decision. Viciously, I remember this, he viciously knocked out Ayman Zahabi, I believe in Madison Square Garden. He fought in the preliminary portion of the card for that show, which was a super stacked show. I think that's where Rose Namajunas beat, you know, out of your Jacek, that's where George St. Pierre beat Michael Bisping to win the middleweight championship, and then he disappeared into the abyss. That's what George does, unfortunately. I don't know. How can you say he's the greatest of all time when he has been absent from the sport for like 7 of the last 8 years? Like, I don't know. I just you have to take that into account at some point. When he was active as a fighter, he retired last year, I believe. You know, he did not fight for many years. So, to me, that's got to play a role into his overall greatness. That's got to play a role into him being on the Mount Rushmore of things. Will he be on the Mount Rushmore if I had to guess for MMA still? Yeah, but is he the greatest of all time? No. And I think that plays a factor into why. Perhaps that's not the only factor. There's other reasons, but that's definitely one of them. Anyway, back off my tangent. We got Ricardo so he won his first 2 fights in his debut year of 2017. Then in 2018, he won another fight. He beat Kang Kyung-ho by decision. 2019, I'm sure he got an increase in competition. He first fought Said Nurmagomedov and lost by KO. His first loss in the UFC. But then he won 2 more fights. He beat Journey Newsom by decision, and he submitted Luis Eduardo Garagori, and that is Luis's only loss in his career. Beat him by submission in the first round. So Ricardo is now going to fight Lerone Murphy, who's in his prime at 28, or he's entering his prime. Lerone has not been in the UFC that long. He fought, though, a super tough guy for his first fight. He made a draw, or he fought to a draw with Zabira Tukagov, who's Habib Nurmagomedov's training partner, one of his training partners. So that's impressive. And Murphy is 8-0. He's undefeated. So this would be a tough fight for Ramos. I gotta say though, seeing all the wins that Ramos collected, sounds like he's like 5-1 in the UFC or something like that. I think this is kind of shitty for Ricardo. I think Ricardo should be in the fighting ranked guys at this point. That's just my opinion. Just looking at it from paper here. And especially from his knockout, like this Ricardo guy is the real deal. He should probably be fighting ranked talent at this point in the featherweight division. I'm going to pick Ricardo. I think he just has more momentum and he's just more on a roll. So I think he's going to pop Murphy's undefeated streak with 1 loss, and I think Ricardo will then fight some ranked guys. It will be pretty undeniable at that point. So we'll see how that goes. Next fight will be between 2 guys making their debut in the UFC, and it will be in the light heavyweight division at 205 pounds. Modestas Bukauskas, no idea who that dude is. He's 10-2. He will be taking on Andreas Michailidis. And looks like Andreas has won some regional titles outside of the UFC. That'll be interesting. I don't really have a guess on who will win. I guess Andreas, I don't know. It really could go either way. I know nothing about these guys. Let's look at their accomplishments. Let's see. Yeah, nothing interesting really. that I can see off paper here. Andreas. Again, he's won a title. It looks like. I'm betting Andreas is going to be a striker. That's just my guess. Because he's talking about Muay Thai and kickboxing in a video. That's my only guess. That's my only guess, really. So, yeah, that's I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch, though, for sure. The UFC light heavyweight division is getting pretty scary for the champion John Jones, I think. We're adding so many, well, maybe not scary for him, but exciting for him, because he's arguably the greatest of all time. He is, you have that Yuri Prochazka coming in from Saturday. He looked like an instant #1 contender, making his debut. I mean, you have talent coming in from all over, from the middleweight division, that are becoming serious stars. Of course, he has to worry about Dominic Reyes, who probably beat him in his last fight, but the judges picked him. It'll be interesting to see if these two guys are two more threats that John Jones has to worry about going forward. Next up, we have Jared Gordon facing Chris Fishgold. These two guys have been around the UFC for a while now, but I think Gordon's fought in the lightweight division. But these two are still in their prime at 31 and 28, respectively. Gordon has been in the UFC since 2017. He knocked out, and looks like he switched between featherweight and lightweight. He knocked out Michael Quinones for his first fight. Then he beat Hakran Diaz, who's a serious fighter. Beat him by decision. Then Gordon knocked out Carlos Diego Ferreira. And Carlos is an emerging fighter in the lightweight division. He's been beating guys left and right in that division. Then he lost by KO to Joaquin Silva at lightweight. Then in lightweight, he won a decision against Dan Moret in 2019, but then got knocked out by Charles Oliveira, who is also making a ranking run in he's a ranked fighter in the most vicious division in the sport of MMA, the UFC lightweight division. So Jared is moving back down to featherweight after that fight. He is going to be fighting Chris Fishgold, who, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe Chris Fishgold, yeah, he's always been a featherweight. He beat Daniel Tamor by submission, but then lost to Makwan Amirkhani by submission. Makwan just had an awesome submission win on Saturday. Was also very respectful in his win. Made sure his opponent, his passed out opponent, was safe and he wasn't in a compromised position that could hurt him more. Very classy move by Makwan. And honestly, as a fan, I thought he was kind of a dick. But yeah, that's where I see this fight. Fishgold is fighting Gordon now. That's his next fight after Amirkhani. I'm going to take Gordon. I think Gordon's a more successful fighter, but this will be a very good fight. Very good fight. I don't know if it will end have a finish. But this will be a great fight in my opinion. Can't not be. These are two they fought really talented guys throughout their UFC career, whether short or long. Next fight below them will be a women's flyweight fight. It will be Diana Belbita versus Liana Jojua. Gotta be honest, I haven't heard about these fighters either. And that's the cool thing about watching some of these cards, that you, especially the lower portions, you watch these lower fight cards and you very quickly find out who are going to be serious threats, or who could potentially be some serious threats of who fights the champion of their respective division down the road once they get better and better and better. So this will be interesting. Both of these girls are pretty young. Deanna's 24, Liana's 25. And Deanna, I saw that she lost a fight in the UFC, and that was her only fight. That was her UFC debut. A tough debut. She fought Molly McCann, so not an easy fight. Liana, though, let's take a look at her. I think she's had only one fight as well, and she got knocked out, or she got TKO'd possibly. I don't know which one, by Sarah Moras, who's 6-7. So, yeah. This will be interesting. I'm going to take Deanna. I'll take Deanna. I think she seems like a tough fighter. If Molly McCann couldn't finish her, so, and just a little bit tougher maybe than Liana. Deanna's noticed, as I saw in the fight, she's also a little bigger, so maybe she'll play a role there. But so yeah, I'll take her. I think she will beat Liana by decision. I don't know much about either fighter though, so we'll see how that goes. Next up down the card will be a UFC men's bantamweight fight at 135 pounds. It will be Jack Shore, who is undefeated. He will take on Aaron Phillips, who is 12-3. Jack has only had one fight in the UFC, and that was a submission win against Nolan Hernandez at UFC Fight Night 160 last September. Jack seems like a legit prospect. This will be interesting. I didn't see that fight, but it should be interesting still. And he's only 25. He's taking on 30-year-old Aaron Phillips, who has had two fights in the UFC. He had a decision loss against Sam Sicilia, in May of 2014. But then he lost again he lost again in August of 2014 to Matt Hobar by decision. So it looks like Aaron is one of those rare cases, or an uncommon case, I should say, of a fighter that got cut by the UFC because he lost back-to-back. But then he fought his way back into the UFC by getting win after win after win. So, just based off that, I'm going to take Aaron Phillips. I think he will win by decision. This will be really competitive, though. I really don't know who's going to win. I don't know much about either fighter, quite frankly, so it's hard to say. But I think Aaron Phillips has more experience in the UFC, so I think that will play a role. All that you need is a little advantage in this level of the game, because they're so evenly matched, these fighters, that a little advantage in something, in just one aspect of the fight, could have them win the fight. That's how competitive it is in this in the UFC. So we'll see how that goes. And finally, we have the curtain jerker of the show. We have another light heavyweight scrap, a knockout-worthy match. To start the show, we have a man by the name of Jorge Gonzalez, who is 16-4, and he appears to be making his UFC debut. He will be fighting undefeated Kenneth Berg, who looks like Berg won. Looks like Berg maybe made his entrance into the UFC by being a part of the Contender Series because he has an image that fighters from the Contender have where his picture is black and white. So it's pretty notorious. And yeah, I could already see from the picture on there that he's been on that show. And Berg is super tatted up. He fights out of Norway. And he is a tough customer, it looks like. Both fighters really are making their UFC debut. It looks like Berg made it on the scene by winning the Contender Series, which means it basically wins you a ticket at some point to fight in the UFC, most likely, because they have a number of fighters who from each Contender Series show that get signed on into the main roster at some point for a show. So I don't know who's going to win. This is going to be a pretty interesting fight. I don't know anything about these two fighters, so I'll take Kenneth Berg. I think there's a reason why they picked him. So yeah, that's who I'm going to pick. Alrighty, guys. Sorry I got cut off there. I had to go do something, but that is the show. Feel free to subscribe and like. Watch my other shows when you have the time. There's some good content. I think you'll like it, particularly if you're an MMA fan, but also if you're a fan of other things, politics, movies. Listen to my opinion if you'd like. And so I could and comment if you want to share in the conversation. So all right, man. Next video, I think I'm going to be. Well, I have a couple. I have a couple ideas. You know, I want to do a movie review. I want to do a video game review, and then I want to talk about another UFC card that's taking place already on Saturday. I think that's what's going on, right? Let's see. Let's see here. Yeah, Figueiredo versus Benavidez 2, which is for the UFC Flyweight Championship. That is going to be taking place on Saturday. That one's on ESPN Plus. So that whole praising of ESPN, all the UFC shows being on ESPN, that ends in a funny way on Saturday. So yeah, so much for that. But hey, I got ESPN Plus. It's only $4 if you want to see that fight, and or if you want to see that show on Saturday. This show, though, on Wednesday, that's going to be on ESPN. So watch it. It should be an interesting card. It's always fun to watch some fights. Anyway, I'll talk to you then, and enjoy the show.